What's up, everybody? On a podcast now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about some of the things, 3 things I think Little Hope needs to do when it releases. Now, I'm a big optimist when it comes to these supermassive games. Obviously, playing Until Dawn, playing Man of Medan. I enjoyed both of them. Obviously, Until Dawn a whole lot more. Little Hope does have me very, very excited. I'm pumped for it. I want to support it. We've made a couple videos on this game in the past, both on this channel and my second channel, which I'll link in the description in case you guys want to check it out. And there seems to be people that are pretty darn receptive to it, so I wanted to try this out because, again, I do want good things for this game, but there's definitely, I mean, you can't overlook the problems that their last game had, okay? And this game seems to already have problems. They haven't really talked about them. It's all completely my speculation, but obviously the game is supposed to only be 6 months after Man of Medan came out. Obviously, it's almost going to be a year after when this game actually releases, and we don't even know the official release date of this game yet, although it has been potentially leaked that it could be in the middle of June. But let's go over 3 things I think, again, this game needs to do to at least be better than Man of Medan, but just a good game in all. And the first thing is giving us solid characters or good characters. I think the reason Until Dawn, I mean, there was a lot of reasons Until Dawn was a truly revolutionary in a lot of ways. I truly believe that game. And the characters were one of them. These characters were really good. Now, were they all insanely likable? No. Good characters don't have to mean that they're likable. They fit stereotypes. That's pretty much what they did in Until Dawn because they played on that kind of trope. So they had an overall vision, and that game, again, was very multi-layered. Man of Medan really, it wasn't. There was a set of characters. They were all okay. I don't think really any of them were absolutely amazing. I think some were better than others, but overall, I would give the in terms of like the casting, not even necessarily the casting, the acting was fine, but how much I cared about the characters, not so much. And with a game like these kind of games, just in general, games like this, you have to be able to have good characters because you got to root for them. Because, again, like the whole point of it is if you make mistakes, they could die early. You would replay it maybe for the different endings. But if you don't care about the story, if you don't care about the characters, why would you replay it? Why would you question a decision you made? And, again, Man of Medan didn't really do a good job with it. Even myself. Now, okay, I knew the endings going in, okay? I already, watched the endings. I knew what I had to do to get, the good ending, the bad ending, all that kind of stuff. But, when I beat the game, I was done. I was like, okay, well, fun time, picked up that last hour. I'd say the last hour of it was really, really good. The rest of it took a very long time to get going. But then after that, I was like, all right, well, I mean, I made my decisions. I made mistakes, I guess, but I don't really care. Time to move on to the next game. That was my general approach, and that's not what you want to do. With Until Dawn, that was not it. That was not what people did. You beat the game, and you were like, oh my god, there were all these different options. I personally lost a lot of characters in Until Dawn. I think I lost half of them, and again, in different kind of sections too. So I was like, shoot, what do I have to do to keep? I like these characters. I want to see where their dialogue. Where do they go? Where does their story take us? And that was one of the very, very special things that Until Dawn had. Now, again, these games are smaller. These games aren't supposed to be Until Dawn. But come on, you got to give us something. So that's the first thing I think Little Hope needs to do. Again, it's in a new area. They're exploring witches and ghosts and supernatural stuff. So it could be very, very cool. But you got to give us not necessarily likable characters because not every character in Until Dawn was likable, but just good characters in a lot of different ways. And I honestly feel like they can. They have to listen to the feedback of Man of Medan. Now, in terms of the ghosts, the supernatural, that's the second thing is you got to watch the twist. Now, I don't really have here's what they need to do with the twist to make it good. It's more of a general discussion because I've seen this even in the comments of the videos I've made for this, and I agree. Anybody that said this, I completely agree with you. These games rely on their twists, okay? Now, you could say a lot of horror games do that. Not all, but some rely on big twists to kind of set the stage. And these games do that. Until Dawn relied on a couple very, very key twists for the story, right? Really, to pivot the entire direction of where the game's going. The first half of it, you think it's just literally a human. Now, he's really weird. He's obviously got this mask and stuff like that, but you think it's a person hunting them, but there's supernatural elements going on, but then there's the twist, right? And now all of a sudden it becomes a supernaturally game, but then there's other stuff that's going on that still brings it back to Josh and all that kind of stuff. So they play with a lot of different twists to really switch the angle of where the game's going. Man of Medan, that game entirely, the 4-hour game, is built on the twist that nothing is really happening. It's all just the chemical messing with them that's having them hallucinate. That's the whole thing. Now, and if you tell people, by the way, that's another way of looking at this, like the shock value, the shock thing of these games, the thing that if you tell somebody what it is, you have spoiled the game for them. That needs to be seriously thought about in Little Hope. Again, I really don't have here's Alex's step-by-step guidelines to follow for what you need to do. I just think you need to be wary of it because I love the twist in Until Dawn. You could also say, well, maybe there shouldn't be a twist at all because, again, even if you're expecting the twist, that's still you expecting it. That's still a problem because you're going in already ready for you're going to be nitpicking things. You're going to be like, oh, well, that doesn't necessarily make sense. Maybe that's part of an overall thing. And especially with Man of Medan, going into it, I didn't know that it was all kind of fake, basically, right? Let's say. I think it was very painfully obvious that it was going on. I think the game... Now, yes, when you look around and you find different things, it made it a lot more obvious. But I think even if you didn't do that and you still followed the base game, I think they showed enough, visual cues to show you, hey, this is what's really happening. Maybe that's just personally me. Maybe they didn't really take our knowledge seriously enough. Maybe they just assumed a lot of people would just let those things pass. And I'm sure there were people that were very surprised at the twist of it. But I just think for Little Hope, they have a new opportunity. Okay, again, supernatural. They've never done that. Wendigos are supernatural, but ghosts and witches and, apparitions, stuff like that, they haven't done that yet. And I think that could be very, very cool. Definitely, again, lends. Now, again, do they do a twist with that though? Is it like a Wizard of Oz thing where there's somebody behind the curtain doing these things? I don't know. They could do that. I think that would be kind of cheesy and kind of lame, but they could do that. So, and even just saying that kind of shows that I'm even going to go into this game all right, if they do supernatural stuff and they really throw it at us, are they going to have some signs that maybe it's not actually happening or maybe there's something else happening? Already, I'm kind of going into the game thinking that, and I don't necessarily like that. But that's honestly what you get from a publisher or developer that does 2 games. Now this is the 3rd one, and they're going to do 6 other ones. This is just generally what happens when you do that. So again, I don't necessarily know what I would say. I would love to hear. Maybe you guys definitely most times have better suggestions than me. So I would love to hear from you guys in the comments. What do you think that should they have a twist at all? Should it what should the twist be? That kind of stuff. I'd love to hear from you guys, but I don't necessarily know. I would just say I would just throw caution out there and say you know what. You're starting to fall into some tropes in a bad way. You're starting to fall into some things where people are expecting certain stuff, and you don't really want that from a horror game or horror anything. If you're expecting something from a horror property, you've already kind of let yourself down because it's either not going to fulfill your expectations, which yes, everybody has expectations. People's expectations may not be reached on anything, but I feel like for the horror thing, you want to always be surprised, and if you're not surprised, that maybe hurts the horror game overall. And again, with this, they just keep doing it, and now you're starting to fall into a routine, and they've even talked about these games seemingly as a routine, which isn't exactly the greatest confidence booster, but still, that's something to think about. The third thing is also something to think about. Again, not necessarily, I guess it is, it's a suggestion I have, and here it is. What if you ended this game leading into the one afterwards? That's it. That's pretty much it. It's just a suggestion, but I wonder what you could do with something like that. Obviously, Until Dawn ended, and it ended. I mean, yes. And after all of these, there are after credit things. Again, there's different endings that completely change things up. Even Man of Medan had a lot of different endings that definitely, you think you're in the clear in one of them, and then a major character dies and stuff because of a decision you made in the beginning of the game. Stuff like that. They did do some things that threw, the story out of whack on purpose in a good, and I actually appreciate a lot of those. But none of these games have connected to each other. And by the way, that is not a bad thing. That's why, again, it's just a suggestion. Would you consider this game leading into the another game? Is that something that's possible? I think that is the bigger question. Is it possible? Because I think you could theoretically come up with it. I think it honestly would be a good idea to have these games lead into the next one. The problem is, because of the kind of games they are, because of how much of a change you can have in these games, it is difficult to have these crossovers because one person may have a completely different set of things that happen versus another. Maybe one person gets through the game with only one character remaining. Maybe one gets through with all 5 characters remaining. You never know. But here's another question though. Does that stop it leading into the next game? Maybe maybe you end one, getting to a location that literally is the start of the other, and then those characters just disappear. I don't know. Maybe you literally have one game lead to the scenario or location or dilemma or whatever you want to use of the next game. Again, just a suggestion, but I wonder if it would make these games feel more connected. Now, again, you've lost that with Until, and I'm not saying I would have liked that for Until Dawn or Man of Medan, by the way. In fact, I don't think there's any way you could have connected those two games, and they probably didn't know. But at this point, and this is the biggest thing, is they do know what's coming next. In fact, I remember when they announced this, I'm pretty sure their overall plan is they're working on like the next 2 at all times. So like right now, they're working on Little Hope. They're also probably more than halfway done with the game afterwards. So it's not like they don't know what comes next. In fact, they probably know what comes after that too. They probably haven't started it, but they probably know what comes after it. So again, it's a situation where like if you know what comes next, what can you do with the game you already have? Or is it too late with the game you already have because you're starting the there's a lot of different questions there, but I wonder if it would just again make them more synchronized, especially because this is an anthology and there's 8 of them and they're back to back, just keep going. They're supposed to be coming out every 6 months, and I get it. I guess the overall point is they're all 6 very unique stories, but that doesn't mean you can't. And I get that. And in fact, I think they even said that like the whole point is that they're distinct and they're different from each other. I'm not saying like don't do that, but that doesn't mean that one can't somewhat lead into the other or hint at the other one throughout it. I think it honestly could, and I think that would make it a little bit easier to jump into the next game. And also, a thing you gotta think about is if these games aren't selling, or if these games are like get worse and worse and worse, you gotta change up your plan. I mean, yeah, they can have a nice sounding plan in the beginning, and they could be following it to a T. But then if the execution isn't there, which I'm not saying it isn't, but if it becomes that, you gotta change it up. I mean, you can't keep doing what you're doing. Would you keep doing what you're doing if you're failing every time and it's continuously getting worse? No, you gotta change it up. You gotta do something. And again, I'm not saying this is like the number one thing that would pop to mind of like, oh man, this is what you gotta have one lead into the other. That's your major problem. No, it's just something that I think maybe should be considered to help people go from one game to the other, because ultimately you want everybody, at least everybody that bought Man of Medan, to buy Little Hope. If that's not even happening, that's a huge problem. So that is the first thing you want to do, and ultimately you got to look at different ways of getting people to do that, and again, having them be connected could be one of those ways. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think? What are some things that you think Little Hope needs to do to be good in general, to be better than Man of Medan, any way you want to say it? Let me know. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up, and we'll continue covering Little Hope, again, both here and on my second channel. Whenever it officially gets its release date, we'll talk about it. When it comes out, I'll obviously support it and be making loads of videos. So again, if you guys like these Supermassive games, then you found the right place, okay? Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.